Welcome to the 1990 series. My name is Amanda O'Shea, the Loving Life Coach from the Serendipity Experience, and I have with me today a very special guest, Miss Kate Moss, who is in Javia, Spain at the moment. Kate has become a very dear friend of mine over the last few years, especially as we've done some work together and put together the Love and Clarity retreats. We've spent a lot of intense time together, and she is a wonderful artiste, massage practitioner, yoga teacher, amongst many other wonderful things. Welcome, Kate. Lovely to see you today.
Thank you, Amanda. Lovely to be here with you.
Thank you for being part of the 1990 series.
Well, you'd never ask.
And we always save the best, you know, save the best for last.
That's right. That's right.
You're midway. You're in the 50s, a bit like myself. Yes, I do believe you're Miss 53. So, yeah, that's wonderful. So slowly by slowly, we're getting through the list, and it's been amazing. Kate, we're going to talk today, a little title that you gave, which is Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
That's right. That's right. I would like to say that I think there's a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, which I haven't read. And the book was not the inspiration for the talk. So it's not, I mean, whether we discuss something that's in the book, that would be completely
However, it's interesting because the guy who wrote the book has a connection with the 3 principles of the Inside Out.
He does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure whether he had that understanding when he wrote that book or...
Sure.
But he did a lot of work with, I'm sure, Michael Neal and that. To check that out. I remember remember reading that book years ago.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, but yeah.
So, Kate, you've been around this understanding, if you like, the 3 principles, the Inside Out understanding from a few years. Introduce some.
Yeah, I think 3 years or so, maybe coming up 3 years. Well, about 3 years, I think.
I think it'd be a bit longer than that.
Maybe 4, actually.
Yeah, we went on a non-duality retreat together.
When was that?
Oh, about 4 years ago.
4 years, January, February time.
Because we've done 3 Love and Clarity retreats.
Yes, so it's probably about 4 years then.
4 or 5 years ago, yeah, the Lisa Kens, we went on that retreat. And so I would have been sharing the principles then. I'm sure you would have come to talks up in Albia back when I was doing my training with Jack Pransky. You would have come to evenings.
I might have come to one, but I don't remember. I remember you having your gatherings at your house in the port.
Yeah. So
and I remember you doing the training, but I think I came into it a bit towards the end of your training.
Yeah, and so it's funny, I'm watching you. We've had lots of chats and conversations, sat in the camper van, some very late at night, and you've listened to me if I've had things going on, and I've listened to you as you had things going on. And so it was I think it just kind of, whispered in, really. There was sort of this sort of whispering in, and I think something happened when we spent that 7 days living in that little caravan down at Hidden Paradise on the Lisa Kens non-duality retreat.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of a shift there, I think, And I remember when you
there was definitely a shift for me personally in my life. There was a big shift there. I remember certain things didn't become quite as important, there was a big weight lifted, where it was like, and this sense of letting things unfold, there was a big kind of, it became very apparent to me that we can let just things unfold. We don't have to control everything. We just let things happen, take our hands off, So that was big for me.
Makes life easier, right? It makes
life
easier.
Absolutely, yeah.
So have you been seeing, what is it that you've been seeing yourself around, I guess, I don't know, your own community, people you work with, clients, family, friends? Is it that you see people get caught up with the small stuff? Is that, or what is it that you're seeing that's so obvious to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. Let me see if I can keep track of it, Yeah, so sometimes I think, and I've actually mentioned this a couple of times to people recently, I start to see that quite often little things become really, if we're, how do I explain this? Perhaps it's when we're not in a good level of consciousness, we start to get fixated on things that are really not that important. Do you know what I mean? And it's not, as we know, it's not things on the outside that are causing us to feel what we're feeling, you know? So I think sometimes we get fixated on things, and that's where I was coming up with this thing of, you know, there are important things that we have to deal with. It's not saying we don't have to deal with things, but sometimes I think we get a bit obsessed with things that are just not that important, you know. And so I see people sometimes, you know, becoming very frustrated with stuff. I mean, what becomes very clear is that when we are, or what I've seen definitely, you know, with the principles, or the more, you know, I've seen this in Albia in talks and stuff, when we are in a great mood, you know, or when we're in a high level of consciousness, it's not that important where the neighbour's parked his car. It's not that important whether the phone call that was supposed to happen at 12 o'clock happened at 12:15. It's not all these things that in other moments can seem so frustrating and irritating, you know. And I remember you saying this actually years ago about, I think it was about your children leaving towels on the bed or socks on the floor.
Charlie leaving towels.
Charlie, yeah. And how that used to really irritate you. Do you know what I mean? And then now you can almost see it as, you know, it's not that, that's a small thing, you know what I mean? And when things change, you know, like if you're really unwell, or if Charlie was to be really sick, you wouldn't care at all about the socks on the floor or the towel, you know. And that's what I see more and more. You know, there are times, and I see it with my mom, you know, and I see it in my relationship quite often, you know. It's like when other things seem to be boiling in our head, then other people are responsible, and they're not living up to a certain standard, and we're frustrated and we're angry at them. And it's like, you're not really. And then when we're in a good mood, it's like, oh, it doesn't really matter, does it? You know, it's like, well, how can something be so important on Tuesday and not so important on Wednesday? It's like, and what we see is, of course, it's a reflection of what's going on in ourselves, you know, or in our thinking.
Yeah, and that is so true. It's just, it's always about where we're at. It's nothing more than that. Our level of consciousness is seducing a neutral thought every single moment. And because we rise and fall, you know, we're in that place of love, that place of relaxation, peace, serenity, gratitude, beauty, service. It's easy, it's effortless, it's bright and bubbly, and everything's no problem, and everything's great. But as our own personal levels of consciousness drop, we take a drop, we get more into that more fear kind of expressions, where we have, you know, more insecurity thinking, more anxiety, more panic, more judgment, more sadness, feelings of disconnection, jealousy, envy, all
of it, yeah.
Just like them, you know, but we're all going up and down. We're all going. Some of us just seem to kind of hang out at the top a bit more, and we might drop and bounce back up, and others seem to be stuck a little bit down here, and they might peak up. But you know, and you've got two people who are doing this. Now, when we meet up here, we're just in love again. You know, it's that connection. Down here, it's a bit more, someone's wrong and someone's right. Someone's wrong and someone's right. And there's, you should have done that, and you haven't done it the way I wanted you, and there's expectations, and there's disappointments. And so we see this going on. And what we want is this, you know, or this is where we are. This is real. This is who we truly are at our true essence, nothing separated. But that
what I think,
you know,
so too is and what I try to do, because, you know, now that you can kind of, if you take yourself as the observer and you start watching that, right, what you're talking about, this, and you start seeing how it is, and or this love, you know, so you might have one person's in this love, and you've got this other person that's like this, and it's like, okay, I know that this can't affect me in this, right? My thinking can bring me down to this. But, so it's like, okay, you know, and it's very hard when you're in, you know, when you're in like a personal relationship with someone, you know, if they're in a grumpy mood and they're kind of being really grumpy and moody towards you, it's very hard to, as you said, you know, suddenly my level of consciousness is coming down. I'm coming into this insecure thinking, and I'm coming down into this, you know, being self-conscious or self-critical or worried or panic or fear that I've done something wrong, or, you know, but it's being able to almost still be able to see that actually whatever's going on in their head is going on in their head. And I'm not causing that, you know.
And
That is so helpful.
It is, because, you know, if somebody's down here and they're getting their knickers in a twist and they're, you know, you can see them getting so like, caught up. When at least if you remember, I mean, it all comes this innocently. Like if we didn't know that, I spent a lot of my life down here thinking everybody should be doing things the way that I was doing it, and why didn't they, and what was wrong with them, you know? So,
or you get annoyed that they're in a bad mood. You think, well, why? I don't need to be with you in a shitty, excuse me, I'm allowed to say that, in a bad mood. I don't want to be around you in your mood, but let them have their mood.
Right.
Get away from the mood.
Now, when you're up here, you can let them, because you're guided by wisdom. You're in clarity. You're guided by wisdom. Something might pop in your head, like, can I do anything for you? Can I get you tea? Or, you know, can I, you know, you might stem up with something obvious that you might feel like, you know, is helpful. The biggest help might be to just leave them rant it out or do what they're doing. But, you know, often what I see if I'm working with couples or working with people that got things going on in their relationships is this person here acts like the victim for this person's sort of bad mood or low state of mind. So then, you know, if this person here is kind of saying, you can still be low and have wisdom talk to you, which is, not now. Everyone leave me alone, right? Because I know I'm low, and you're not going to get anything good out of me if I'm
right. And that's wisdom. Yeah, that's
you know, I drop down here. I don't tend to stay there for very long, but when I'm there, I know I'm down there, and I'm no good to anyone. It's like me. But if somebody up here is like, oh, but I want to talk now, and I need to talk now, and if they want to have a heart to heart now, it's just, you're not going to get anything good from me if I'm down here. And so the opposite way, if we're up here and it's typical, isn't it? Sometimes we've got something beautifully planned, everything's going rosy, we're so excited, and then this person's not in a good space. It's like, you've ruined it. Like, you've ruined my perfect day. And I
had that very experience not that long ago, actually. Yeah, where I think I can't remember what I'd come out of. Some reflex, or I don't know, I'd come out of something and I was kind of on a high, and then, you know, my partner said something and I was like, oh, you know what, I was in such a zen, and then I had that realization that actually you can't take that from me. Only I can allow myself to get into that and take what you're saying, you know. And again, what he'd said was very innocent. It wasn't anything, you know, nasty or horrible. It was just a comment about, you know, I can't remember what it was, you know, like, oh, we've got to do that, or, you know, or you've got to make sure you do this or something, you know. And I just thought, oh, that's not my chilled vibe right now, you know.
Yeah, and you can only, you know, once we're up here and once we have that understanding that the only thing that's ever happening is people are feeling their own thinking. They're feeling their own level of consciousness in the moment. You know, they're seducing their own thinking. They're creating their own nonsense in the moment. The more we see that, the more we can let them be and have love and compassion and empathy for them. But what happens is we slip out of that remembering that that's how it works. And because we've spent 40, 50 years or whatever it might be of believing that they can affect us. Now, that's our choice. If we've got somebody that spends a lot of time down there, that's our choice whether we want to stay in a relationship with them or live with them or whatever. But you'd want to make that decision from a place of clarity, not from a place of ourselves coming down here and then having that blame. I'm always in a good place and you're never in a good place. Because we're not seeing the reflection of that. What that does is headbutting ego against ego.
Yeah.
Ego constantly. Isn't that incredible that actually at our true essence we're all up here?
Yeah, when we're both back up there, it's all, as you said, it's all love and brilliant, and it's the
love.
best. And
but this is our true essence. It's only the human, you know, the human concept of self that is able to do this, and all of this is a gift. Like, being down here is a gift too. It just, I believe, doesn't serve human beings that well to hang out that long down here. We weren't
Yeah, yeah.
designed. We're designed to visit in my head and come back with, you know, that play.
Sure.
And so,
Hopefully you come down, bounce, and come back up.
yeah, it's like that. It's like because the moment you catch it, the moment that you catch, oh, I'm in a bad mood or I'm blaming. The moment I catch I'm blaming somebody else for my feelings, it's back at me, looking at me, not at them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
colour in the world, whatever colour whatever shade I'm happen to be hanging out at. So when I'm in a grey shade, everything looks grey and dim and dull and boring and hard work. And when I'm up here and it feels more bright and that kind of thing for me up here, everything's okay. Don't worry about it. You know, it's all right. It'll work out. Nothing's a problem. And that stuff is kind of nicer virus to catch. It's nicer to be catching the love bug.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I had when I was at Viva, not that long ago with you guys, it kind of solidified it to me that that's why I fell in love with yoga, actually, because yoga was a vehicle for the love bug. Yoga was, you did your hour, an hour and a half, and at the end you just felt this complete, I remember being, in Boston where I trained, or before I trained, when I first experienced, went to yoga classes, and it was like, yeah, I would do an hour and 15 minutes of physical exercise. So you've got all those endorphins running around your body. And then you're laying down in Shavasana. And I would leave with this great sense of like Zen and calm, and like nothing can affect me. Nothing can upset me. I'm in such a great place, and then when I was at Vivo, it was like, okay, that's what it is. I'm going through this practice, raising my level of consciousness, so I feel fantastic when I leave.
Yeah.
And then that's where we become addicted to that, right? Because we're like, oh, I want to do that again. I want to be more, I want to, as you would say, I want to hang out more up in that space up there, because that feels really nice up there.
Feels good. We're always chasing the good feeling, or we're always, we live in the good feeling. It's only our thinking that takes us away from it. But I find that really interesting as well, Kate. And because that serves you so well, it makes total sense that you want to train to be a yoga teacher and spend your time doing more yoga. But I see really clearly that we don't hang out in that space only because we do yoga.
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah, so yoga is great as a practice, like meditation is, like walking in the forest, like climbing mountains.
Sitting on the beach or whatever
whatever that is suits, because it suits you. So we're not all right because we do all of those things. We're all right. We're all right. And then those things are just healthy practices that if they suit us, do more of it.
Yeah.
And I think some people do get the thing, well, I have to get up, do sunrise walk on the beach, and then do meditation, and then do yoga, and then do this, and I don't like it, and it hurts, it's uncomfortable, and it's like that becomes like a practice in order to get somewhere, and that's what I've seen very clearly is that's not how it works. But when a healthy practice allows you to to fall into that space, then that's great if it suits you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just saw it as that yoga was, and it's not only yoga, as you said, but it's certainly very accessible these days. But it's a vehicle to kind of connect to your source, to connect to your true nature, to connect what you have. Because people at the end of a yoga session are like, oh my God, I feel I don't believe I created that. It's the same as the end of a massage. I didn't create that. I didn't put that inside of you. You had an experience that I aided, and you connected to something greater and deeper inside of you or the universe, and you feel that connection, and maybe ultimately that's what it's about, is this connection.
And I think when you bring your loving presence, so because you love yoga, because you're there and it feels good for you, and that's all we can do. When something feels good for us, we do more of that, right? And we share that. That's
Sure.
all we actually have to do. Because when you turn up your loving presence in clarity to a yoga class, to a massage, to I don't know, while you're doing your art, then it's like all of those are made with love. All of those are, it's like the love is flowing through you. Unconditional love is flowing through you. in
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you happen to have the joy of doing as a human being, that we get to do stuff like yoga or like Pilates or like painting or like playing the guitar or singing or walking our dogs or whatever it is, sewing or crocheting, that might seem so boring to somebody else, is like bliss for another.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing? So it's not that we have to copy what other people are doing in order to feel like they feel. And I see that a lot in the world of people are like, well, you need to do this and this and this and this and this, and that's just
Absolutely.
not true. It's not true. But I was to be open to it.
Right.
Go try it out, go try it out and see how you feel afterwards. And if it feels good, well, maybe try it again. So, it's wonderful that you bring that loving presence to the workplace. That's what people get the feeling with that. People hear the feeling. And you have a beautiful way, you have a lovely voice, you have a lovely way of hosting your classes, and it's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure to have you, whether it's in the retreat setting or whether it's in the class. And I'm
seeing too more and more as I the more I teach, that the more present I am in the teaching. As soon as I start thinking about, as soon as I'm ahead, as soon as I start thinking about the third or fourth or the fifth posture or what song or the soundtrack or something, as soon as I get out of the present, everything starts. I'm like, oh, I've forgotten my left and my right, and I've got, you know what I mean? And it's like the more I can be present in that complete. I mean, you do have to think a bit about, someone's knocking on the window trying to get in. You've got, but the more I can be present, the more fluid it is,
And do you think that looking in this direction, understanding the principles behind our human experience, looking at those sort of subjects in general, whether it be non-duality or spirituality, do you see that you work differently? Do you see that as a human being you function differently?
I've definitely seen that through the principles, and there's some, connection. There's something becoming very apparent to me, from Viva and before Viva, about the relationship between things, like yoga and massage and, and connecting to our true essence, and that I'm just letting unfold and just really enjoying playing with that idea, just kind of watching that. When I did my training, the person I trained with, Rolf Gates, he would talk about, come home to your mat, or you come home, and this sense of coming home. And then, of course, at Viva, they talked about that coming home, and so there's a lot of that where I'm like, yeah, it's all about coming to that your true space, your true essence, So it's really lovely to see these two, or however many, passions that I have, and how they play out in this, in the three principles as well, or how the three principles play out in them. I don't know which is a bit both, I guess.
It's everything. That's the thing. The principles is behind everything. So, it doesn't really matter. It's just playing out, allowing us to use our own bodies, our own voices, to create classes, to give loving, healing kind of sessions, to create spaces to hang out in. And I love that. The kind of don't sweat the small stuff, just connect to your to your core essence. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's a really nice place to say cheerio to you, Kate Moss.
Okay.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for being.
Thank you.
And thank you for being part of the night.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Keep sharing the love, girlfriend.
I will.
Lots of love.
Bye. Bye, lovely. Bye.
To everybody, thank you for listening. Bye-bye.